chapter 2, verse 4 up to verse 10. It's a continuation of our message last time, false teachers in our midst. I'll announce this later. But false teachers and their judgments. I know it's a good transition from our Thanksgiving to our message today. But it's good that we are here to understand the words of God, the words and His commands to us. And we love to open our Bibles, we love to read it as much as possible, word for word, verse by verse, preaching. We call it expository preaching, but I'll try my best to share this in the power of the Holy Spirit today. Let me read verse 4, 2 Peter or 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 4 up to verse 10. For if God did not spare angels who sinned, but cast them into the pit and delivered them to chains of darkness, being kept for judgment, and did not spare the ancient world, but preserved Noah, a preacher of righteousness, with 7 others, when he brought a preacher of righteousness with 7 others, when he brought a flood upon the world of the ungodly. Verse 6, and if he condemned the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah to destruction by reducing them to ashes, having made them an example to those who would live ungodly lives thereafter. Verse 7, and if he rescued righteous Lot, oppressed by the sensual conduct of unprincipled men, for by what he saw and heard, that righteous man, while living among them, felt his righteous soul tormented day after day by their lawless deeds. Verse 9, then the Lord knows how to rescue the godly from trial, and to keep the unrighteous under the punishment for the day of judgment. Last verse, and especially those who go after the flesh in its corrupt lust, and despise authority. Daring, self-willed, they do not tremble when they blaspheme glorious ones. Today we will learn how God keeps saving God's people, and God protecting His own people, comparing it to those who are doomed to destruction because they rejected Christ. They rejected His salvation and His gospel. And we will see today how God really showed His love for you and for me, and how God really will pay. They will be accounted, as we too will be accounted for our deeds. But for the unrighteous people, everything that they do, they will be accounted for, and they will face God in the great white throne judgment. We'll see today. I hope you can, I know it's a little bit, so there are a lot of words, difficult to understand, but let me share a few portions of these verses, and we'll see how God punish those who live not according to God's ways, and those who live according to His way, He blesses and He protected. What we learned last week, that God bring people to His narrow gate, that God saved those who are His, and that He will punish and give judgment to those who rejected Him and keep rejecting Him up to today. And his judgment is not sleeping. His judgment didn't stop. It's still there waiting for all of them. Verse 4, let me just share a principle here. First principle that we can get from this verse, verse 4, God had already judged all fallen angels. God already judged all fallen angels. And we need to believe that there are angels who are with God, and there were angels, because of their pride, chose to be fallen. And now they are judged because of their pride and disobedience, led by Lucifer or Satan himself. But some of them were brought into the bottomless pit for their future and final judgment. What Peter was saying is, there is judgment. There's judgment for those false teachers and those people who keep following their teachings. There's judgment waiting for them. One example are the fallen angels. And even these angels, during the ancient time, really went away from their normal calling, abode, they'd say. And they remember in Genesis chapter 6, they had a sexual relationship with the daughters of men. They're so wicked. If there are like 1 million fallen angels, 300,000, 1/3, I hope my mathematics is right, followed Lucifer, followed Satan, and these 300,000 fallen angels, some of them have slipped away. Yeah, they were thrown on the earth, but some of them slipped away and chose to rebel against God. They had a relation with the daughters of men. So they want to possess the men, their children, to continue to blaspheme the name of God. And what Peter was saying, there's judgment awaiting for them. Their judgment, it's waiting and didn't stop. Hell is there, judgment for them to be thrown, according to Revelation, they will be thrown to the lake of fire. Let's read verse 4. But for if God, the word if, since this is not conditional, it will happen. They're just waiting, these fallen angels. For if God did not spare angels who sin, who have fallen, but cast them into the pit, into this dark place, and delivered them to chains of darkness. So just feel or understand the meaning of this phrase or this verse. Fallen angels have sinned against God, then God cast them into the pit. The other angels were thrown on the earth, and some angels were thrown into the pit. And then they delivered God, not they, God, of course the Trinity, God delivered them to chains of darkness. They're in chains and in that bottomless pit, being kept for judgment. That's the first point. It says, what Peter is saying, there's judgment for the fallen angels. They will never be saved again. They blaspheme God. They want to occupy the position of God, but they didn't survive. They are forever judged, and one day they will be thrown into the lake of fire. Second point, verse 5. God had also judged the ungodly world. Now, aside from these fallen angels, these 1/3 fallen angels, I hope I can read more verses here. God will judge this ungodly world of Noah by flood, destroying the entire civilization, but saving Noah, a preacher of righteousness, and his family of 7. Let's read verse 5. And did not spare the ancient world. He didn't spare the whole entire world. So angels were thrown to the pit. Fallen angels were thrown into the pit of hell, bottomless pit. They were in chains. But at the same time, because these people, during the time of Noah, can you imagine? They kept blaspheming the name of God, but preserved Noah, and he was called a preacher of righteousness. He was righteous, God called him righteous, and blameless, with 7 others, his wife and his 3 sons and their wives, when he brought a flood upon the world of the ungodly. He brought flood. The Greek word for flood here is cataclysm, where we get the word cataclysmic. It's really the entire, they call it, John MacArthur called it judgment miracle. It's a miracle to see the entire